Hi everyone, in this week's wander I'm going to be looking at some of the grasses I grow in my garden, and starting with slap bang straight in front of me here we have the very lovely Steeper gigantea. Well named. You can see it's quite a tall grass, although it does have a light airiness to it, so you get this sort of see-through element to the flowers when they come up. And this starts flowering around the beginning of June time, so it's a good early season grass. It gives you a bit of structure from quite early on in the season. Has this evergreen clump of foliage at the base, which does get cut hard back around Christmas time, simply because I've got some of my rare snowdrops planted under it. But perhaps in your garden you wouldn't cut it down to the beginning of February, just as it's starting into growth, and then it puts on nice new fresh foliage for the following season rather than a mix of old and new. But that will look great right up until whatever point the weather gets really windy and wet over the winter, and then it's just cut down to tidy it up. And then panning round on the right hand side here we've got several grasses planted at the base of this huge dahlia. Yes, everybody, that is a dahlia. Just starting to come into bud. It always flowers very, very late if it flowers at all, but we'll see whether the frosts take care of that. Anyhow, at the base we have Pennisetum alopecuroides, a variety called hamelm, and this is a great hardy form of Pennisetum. Some are North American plants which tend to be hardier, some varieties are South American which don't, but this is hardy. This has been here about 7 years. It has formed a nice decent sized clump and has these nice dark sort of tinted bottle brush flowers to it. And then if we just pan out and look around here, down below here, another member of the Pennisetum family, hardy but slightly short-lived. This is Pennisetum villosum, and flowers well in a nice sunny spot, so it's had a reasonable amount of sun here. There's one a bit further up the garden that doesn't get as much sun and has hardly, well, I can see 3 flowers open on it from here, so it wants a slightly sunnier spot than it's got up there. And looking around and back, at the back of this border here we've got the tall variegated Miscanthus cosmopolitan, which, if you look at the top there, is just in the last couple of days opening a few flowers. Sometimes some years it flowers, some years it doesn't. It's grown mainly for its variegated leaves, not evergreen, so they'll all turn a sort of pale strawy biscuit colour in the winter months, but makes a good foliage plant throughout the season, and then we'll have these nice flowers just opening now. And panning down here we have a Molinia. Now Molinias generally make green basal clumps of foliage and then have flowers at varying heights above that foliage. This is a variety called Skyrocket. As you can see, it's taller than me, about 6 feet, reaching for the sky. And within the next few weeks it's just starting to go a bit yellow at the base, but by the time we get to sort of mid-November, another month's time, the whole thing will turn a lovely golden yellow. So that's quite a significant look through the autumn months, and then will turn brown. Molinias don't tend to last very well into the winter. They tend to sort of fall apart once we get some cold, wet weather. And then just above my lovely aster there you can see another Miscanthus. That's Miscanthus malapartus. That's been flowering for about a month now. And has gone past its sort of red tinted stage to a sort of paler fluffy flower head, but that will last right through until February time when it gets cut down and make a nice sort of dried flower arrangement addition to the back of the border through the winter months. And then panning round here in front of us here we have got a plant that used to be called Steeper arundinacea, but has been renamed Anamathalia lessoniana now, and this is an evergreen grass that takes on nice sort of orangey reddy tints at this time of year and going into the winter months, and has these I've pulled lots of them off now. They actually pull out very satisfyingly easy, but it has these big arching masses of these arching flower heads. And this is the one grass that I've got in my garden that does actually self-seed quite profusely. I know people find grasses a little bit worrying sometimes and think they're going to be a problem in the garden, but this, out of all of those that I have, is the least well behaved, and even that isn't a problem. Its babies are very easy to identify and to remove. So panning round behind me here, behind the steeper, we have the lovely Calamagrostis brachytricha. And this starts flowering in August time and has these nice sort of foxy plumy heads, which have a bit of a pink tint to them when they first come into flower. And then the whole thing again will turn into a dried flower arrangement through the winter months. Great for flower arrangers as well. We've got 3 of these in the garden, sort of staggered down the plot, as it were, to give a bit of continuity. More miscanthus at the back of the border there. I think that's silver spine there. And panning round at the back there, just in front of the church steeple in the distance, we've got Miscanthus floridus, which is a good 8 feet tall. And this plant's height is directly relative to how much moisture is available to it. So if you've got a deep, rich soil that stays relatively retentive, then you'll get these big, massive clumps like so. Most of the green leaves are at the top of the plant, and it rustles very pleasingly in the breeze as well, so it adds a bit of noise as well as movement. And that's one of the lovely things about grasses, they add movement to the garden. See, there we go, exhibit A, it's performing nicely. There's a bit of a breeze this afternoon. As is this chap here, if we pan round. This grass here with the lovely pale, long, light, floaty heads to it. This is Stipa sudichu. And I've been to Beth Chatto's this week, and in her dry gravel garden, because this is a grass that will cope with sun and dry soil, I have to say hers was twice the height of mine. So I think this one definitely needs a bit more sun than it's going to get here. It's overshadowed by the rose and the tree here a bit, although it's in the sun for most of the morning. But I definitely am going to be moving this over the winter because it's a lovely thing and I really want it to do well. So panning round here, we've got another Molinia. This is Molinia transparent. Don't know how well the camera will pick that up, or whether it is looking transparent, but that's, like the Molinia we looked at a minute ago, will turn yellow later on. And then just swinging around behind me, right down here on the edge of the path by myrtle, yes, yew myrtle, we've got a panicum. Now this is actually an annual grass that I haven't really grown in the garden for a number of years, but it just popped up and I recognised it for what it was and left it to do its thing. It is a flower arranger's dream. I don't know if you can make out that lovely sort of fireworky head there. So this is a come up, do its thing and die plant, really. Just the one season for this one, but easy to save the seed. If I just run my hand up the fronds, then I get a handful of seed there. So easy to save the seed and start again if you just want a few around the place. It always sells very well at shows, but a bit of a disappointment perhaps to some people that it's annual. And then behind that we've got Oryzopsis, which again has these lovely, I don't know how well you can make that out on the camera, yes, these sort of sparkler like flower heads, and this forms a big arching clump. That's about 4 feet, 1.2 metres tall and about 1.5 metres wide, but quite light in area. It's not too solid, other things sort of push their way up through it. That's a lovely thing, and that's again sunny spot, reasonably well drained soil for that, and will self-seed around a little bit as well. And then I think the last grass I want to show you, and I'm just noticing that we need a bit of rain. Everything's starting to look a little bit dry now, and I really don't intend to get the hose out again this summer. The last grass I'm going to show you is another member of the Pennisetum family, up here in my slightly more exotic corner. It's this chap here, and this is Pennisetum cetaceum fireworks, which has these dark burgundy red leaves, and these nice sort of foxy tail seed heads, flower heads to it. And this is a Pennisetum from the southern states of America and is not hardy, and I have even tried in past years to overwinter them in the greenhouse, and they are almost, well, they don't know what I've done wrong, but they don't seem to like it, and I almost buy them and put them out like annuals. But this is my dahlia, and my coleus there. These are all my sort of purple leaves and bright shocking coloured flowers. That's my last grass of the afternoon. Don't know what we're going to be looking at next week, but you'll just have to check in and find out. I'll make my decision later on. Thanks for joining me.